Does the new I Know What You Did Last Summer movie really hook you, or is this a summer vacation you should forget? Let's talk about it now. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Your Past. Today I'm here to talk to you about the new I Know What You Did Last Summer. I Know What You Did Last Summer, I guess 2025, the sequel reboot, I guess, of the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise. It is set in the same universe. It is set after the events of the first movie. It has a new cast, but some old surprises. Is this movie worth your time? Is this movie worth watching? My hot take is I think you should watch it. Look, it's not great, but it is entertaining. It has a familiar start, a fun cast, some funny moments, and really great practical effects. Again, it's not a great movie. There are some really dumb decisions. It's a little cheesy. The writing's not great. The justification's not great. But overall, it is entertaining enough. I would wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But oh, and you might be wondering, it's a horror movie. Should I wait? Should I wait during the credits? You should definitely wait. There's a mid-credit scene, a very kind of like meaty mid-credit scene. So wait for that at least. You will probably be happy you did. All that being said, I'm gonna tell you about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap, which will contain spoilers. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off and get to the recap. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. Let's try and get to those spoilers. So, in I Know What You Did Last Summer, you have five friends who, during a fun summer kind of adventure, cause something terrible to happen that comes back to bite them a year later when someone seems to know what happened. They know what they did last summer. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, it has a familiar start. If you've seen the first movie, the I Know What You Did Last Summer original, OG, 1997, whatever you want to call it, this has a familiar start, which was fun. It was fun to see those parallels. It was fun to see how they did little tweaks to it. So it was a little bit different, but it was a very similar formula. Second thing I loved, it was a fun cast. I like the cast, like a lot of people that I hadn't seen before, but they do a fun job. They're not, again, all great, but it is at least entertaining. It kind of knows to kind of play into the cheese, play into like the ridiculous teenager, kind of the young adult aspect of it, and they definitely lean into it. The third thing I loved, it has some funny moments. There are definitely some funny moments. It's not great. It's not a ton of laugh out loud moments, but there's some humor, there's some silly humor, there's some kind of slapstick moments, there's some ridiculous moments, things like that. And the last thing I loved, really good practical effects. It is a horror movie. You hope it has good practical effects, and this does not disappoint. There are some very gruesome moments, there are some very gruesome kills, and it all appears to be on the practical side. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, there is just some of the writing's not great. There's a ton of one-liners that aren't really great. There's some throwbacks to the original movie, which might make you smile, but also feel very forced. It is just not great. The dialogue doesn't feel super, I don't know, fluid, doesn't feel very natural. It feels like they are kind of forcing the dialogue. It feels like they are forcing some of this corny writing, and you definitely notice it. Second thing I didn't love, kind of related, it is corny. There's again some like really corny one-liners. There's some really obvious callbacks to the original, which some are nice, but some are like just kind of in your face. Some of that's the writing, some of that's the references, things like that. It feels a little bit too silly, feels a little bit too convenient. Third thing I didn't love as much, some horrible decisions. I mean, it's a horror movie. You're gonna have horrible decisions, but there are some really ridiculous decisions. Some decisions that make absolutely no sense. I'll go into that in the recap. I'm not gonna go into it here, but there were some painful moments. And the last thing I didn't love as much, not great justification. It's okay. I mean, that happened. It's a horror movie. You're not always gonna get great justification, but I didn't love it. So all that being said, I Know What You Did Last Summer comes to theaters on July 18th, 2025. Like I said, I think you should watch it later, wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But you know what? If you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'm gonna guess you probably didn't like it, but hey, I'm open for anything. And I'm gonna really quickly go into a recap, which will contain spoilers. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So, okay, first off, I'm gonna take this off. It's very hot. All right, I've lost the coat. Let's keep going. So, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, you have five friends. You've got Danica, Teddy, Milo, Ava, and Stevie. They used to be friends growing up. They've kind of grown apart, but they kind of come back together for Danica and Teddy's engagement party. Ava and Milo used to date. They reunite there. You can tell that there's a little bit of a spark there, but nothing develops because they also meet up with an old friend, Stevie, who used to be friends with them, kind of fell out with them. They see her working in the party. They're like, oh, come with us. They all go up to watch the 4th of July fireworks at this, like, I think it was like Dead Man's Curve or something like that, like Reaper's Curve. It is up on the hill. It's a really dumb decision. They go to hang out and they're driving up and they just kind of stop on the side of the road and they're pulled over, but it is not a full shoulder. They're still kind of sticking out. And then they're watching the fireworks, and Teddy just gets kind of like obstinate. He's been drinking. I think he was smoking a little bit, but he's just like standing in the middle of the road. A car comes up. He like decides to play chicken with it. Milo goes and like tackles him out of the way, saves him there. You're worried there, but as he's walking back, another car speeds up. Uh, Teddy doesn't move. The car kind of swerves to avoid him, and that car goes off the cliff. So everyone's concerned. Ava and Stevie want to go to the cops and tell them. Teddy calls and is like, no, 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 we gotta go, we gotta go. They all decide to go. They all decide to not talk about it. Teddy's dad is like really well placed in this town, so he is gonna make it all go away. Fast forward a year. Ava comes back to Southport for another engagement party. It feels like we just had one, but Danica is having another bridal shower, another engagement party. She has a new fiance, Wyatt. And at this bridal party, we see that she is really good friends with Stevie. Stevie stuck around. Ava left. And so but the friends are all back together except for Teddy. Teddy, the ex-fiance, is not at this party, but everyone else is. And Danica gets a note at this engagement party. It's a little card with some flowers. She opens it and it says, "I know what you did last summer." Really familiar start, but you know what? You kind of have to in an "I know what you did last summer" movie. So everyone gets together except for Teddy, and we find out that they're talking about what happened. They didn't tell anyone. We find out who was killed. This person named Sal Cooper. We don't know anything else about them, but they were the person that was killed. They were the person that was in the car that went over the cliff. So that night they're all a little freaked out, but they kind of go about their separate ways. That night, Wyatt gets killed while Danica is taking a bath. He's number one. This is Wyatt, Danica's new fiance. He gets harpooned in the chest, and then a note is written on the wall that says, "You can't erase the past." Later, they're talking about this. They're talking about the similarities to what happened to the previous murders, and they mentioned a hook when they're talking. And I don't think we saw a hook, in the actual kill for Wyatt. Wyatt was like killed, and then he was like stood up, I think, with a harpoon through his head to like stand up or something like that. But so it was a little weird. It seems like maybe it was poor writing, or maybe it was something else. We'll have to see. Now, they start investigating, and Ava contacts Tyler, who was this person that she met on the plane. They hooked up briefly, but Tyler's a true crime podcast, and she wants to learn more about the murders that happened in Southport in 1997, the events of the original I Know What You Did Last Summer movie. So they decide to explore the town, and Tyler takes her to this place called Bayside House, which is where one of the kills happened. Now, when they're there, they get attacked. Ava gets attacked by the raincoat wearing murderer. She manages to cut the murderer, so she's got the blood of the murderer on a knife. She should have saved that so that they get DNA evidence. I'm sure it would take a long time, but hey, that's something. Maybe they could run it through some sort of database. But before any of this can happen, Tyler Tyler gets killed. She runs away. She's trying to escape. The killer is following her, and Tyler eventually gets hooked. And when she gets hooked, she pulls off the mask, the hat of the person. We don't see who it is, but she looks at the person and says, "You," and then she dies. So it seems like she knows this person, which is weird because Tyler isn't from around here. So, well, we'll just put that in our little pocket. Now, after all this, Ava goes to see Julie James, the one of the original survivors, Jennifer Love Hewitt, the original kind of like I Know What You Did Last Summer final girl. And when she meets, Ava tells her what's going on, and Julie James says, "What did you do last summer?" Again, silly, cheesy writing. It was kind of funny, but it also felt kind of ridiculous. Now, they talk, and she thinks that Julie James can help. And Julie's like, "You gotta find who's killing them before they kill you." Great, great advice, Julie. Really wonderful. So Ava goes back to her hometown, and there's a city council meeting where they're talking about the murders, and the mayor and the police chief are trying to calm everyone down. And Ray shows up, and he says, "You know this happened before. You know that this is happening again." Ray, Freddie Prinze Jr., Ray, one of the original, I Know What You Did Last Summer people, is there trying to remind everyone of what happened before. So, meanwhile, while this is happening, Danica and Teddy go to the cemetery, I guess, to try to look for answers. They try to find anyone else that died in 97. Seems like a silly exercise. Seems like a ridiculous exercise. Why would you go to a cemetery for this? While they're there, they find flowers that were left on Sal Cooper's grave. Sal Cooper is a person that died a year ago that Danica, Teddy, Ava, Milo, and Stevie are kind of responsible for. They ask one of the cemetery workers to check the footage of a very conveniently placed camera that is right over the grave. It's like one of the only cameras in the cemetery. There's like four cameras. This is right over the grave. The worker goes to check on it, and while he's checking on it, he gets killed. He gets his throat slit. So it feels like he's gone for hours because it was light out when he left, and now it is dark, like dark, dark. And Danica and Teddy are still there, just waiting. Like, oh, I wonder when they'll be back. Oh, who knows? We'll see. So eventually, Teddy goes to check on the worker, which again, don't split up. Like, there's a killer out for you. Don't split up. Danica is sitting in the cemetery, and eventually she turns around and the killer's there. The rain slick, I know what you did last summer killer is there. He attacks Danica, but Danica is able to get away. She runs into a storeroom that has the original like Croaker Queen float from it looks like the old movies. I don't know if it's the original movie float or if they recreate it. I assume they recreate it. I assume they don't have it in storage, but it is a Croaker Queen float. That is where Sarah Michelle Gellar's character was. She was getting the kind of award, and then she got attacked after that. It is there. Now, Danica hides, but eventually the killer finds her, grabs her, throws her against like a beam. She gets a little bit knocked out, and the killer's about to kill her, but then Teddy tackles the killer. The killer falls off the float, runs away. Teddy checks on Danica, and they all go back to Danica's house. Now, everyone's at Danica's house except for Stevie. Stevie's working, but Teddy, Danica, and Ava and Milo are all there. They decide to sleep in separate rooms, sleep together. What could happen? Well, Ava and Milo hook up. Well, they're starting to hook up, and then Milo gets weirded out by Ava's more adventurous request for him. She wants Milo to choke her. It seems like Ava has been using kind of like sex and maybe a little bit of pain to mask the guilt that she had from last year. So she tries to get Milo to choke her. Milo doesn't want to do that. He goes outside. He goes to his car to like get a charger, and then when he goes back, he's locked out, and then the killer nooses him. So the killer chokes him, not her, chokes him. He gets noosed, he gets killed. The killer jumps in Milo's car, takes the body with him, and drives away. So the next day, Ava and Danica find out that the car was owned by Pastor Judah, and they go to his parish to check it out. This is the car that went over the cliff originally. We find out when they're there that Sal was part of the flock, part of Pastor Judah's congregation, and so then they start to suspect Judah. Now, meanwhile, Teddy decides that he is going to stay in shape. He goes to the gym and he goes to get a steam. He's in a steam room and he kind of passes out in there. When he wakes up, no one's there, and "You're next" is written on the door. So he literally got a message from the killer saying "You're next." What does Teddy do? Does he get a weapon? Does he get security because he's concluded at 40? Does he tell his dad, who has connections with this with the police? No. Teddy just kind of like goes home, I guess. Kind of seems to be chilling. Doesn't seem to be too worried. Teddy's just like hanging out at his house, and there's like a dock that he's hanging on, just drinking after he literally got a message saying "You're next." He's drinking. He goes into this dock. His dock, for some reason, has a like mannequin with that full-on like black rain suit with the hat thing. Stupid mannequin to have when you're worried about a killer. But the killer's actually standing in front of the mannequin. The killer's there. The killer has a knife. When Teddy goes back there, he doesn't realize there's two mannequins for some reason. I think he would notice that. But he comes back. He gets stabbed. Fights the killer. Stabbed. He's going back to his house. Unfortunately, he gets stabbed. Now, Garrett, his dad, goes out to check on him. He sees that Teddy is there, murdered. He like goes to hug him, and that is when Garrett gets hooked, the dad. So that's number 6. That's body count number 6. So while this is happening, Danica and Ava are in prison because they went to go report the pastor. The cops thought they were being hysterical, so they put them to spend the night in prison. And Danica has a dream. In the dream, we see Helen Shivers, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. She's there in the dream. She says that like Danica killed Sal Cooper, and now her fiance is dead. It's a fun scene. Doesn't really make much sense, but it was nice to see Sarah Michelle Gellar. It was nice to see her in this movie. That's the only way she kind of could be. So then she says something like, then she like starts to disintegrate, I guess, and she's like, "Oh, there are consequences when you do bad things," something like that. Danica wakes up, and we find out that Teddy and his dad were murdered. They were hung up like fish in like the town square. So everyone's freaked out. Danica and Ava are clearly freaked out, and so Ray tells them they gotta get away, and the remaining friends all jump on a boat, Teddy's boat, and go away. So the remaining friends are Danica, Ava, and Stevie. Now Danica and Ava are hanging out on the boat when it stops and an anchor drops. Now, meanwhile, the police go to the parish and find Pastor Judah dead. Number 7. He has like a glass or something like in his stomach. So while they're at the parish, the police see a picture, and in the picture is a group of people, part of the congregation essentially, and in it you see Pastor Judah, you see Sal, and then you see Stevie. Stevie has her arm around Sal. Stevie knew Sal very well. So we find out that Stevie is the killer. So this coincides with Ava and Danica finding out that Stevie's the killer because she comes out with the hook. And we find out that Stevie had a hard life. Her family was broke, her dad left, and so she turned to drugs. But then she got clean, and once she was clean, she went to the parish, I guess, to help get clean. And that's when she got close to Sal. And Sal and her became a thing. The night of the accident, Sal was worried about Stevie, worried that Stevie would use again because she was with her old friends, her bad influences. And so he was driving up to check on her. That's why the accident happened. He took Pastor Judah's car to go check on her. When Teddy's dad went to help and like cover it all up, Pastor Judah was perfectly happy to take the money and stay quiet, and that is why Stevie killed Pastor Judah. So there we go. Ray, meanwhile, had a premonition, I guess, that something bad was going to happen. Maybe he has experience with this because it's happened to him before. So he is out on his boat. He comes to help out. Now, when he gets there, Stevie has Danica hostage, and Ray has a gun, a pistol, and Ava has a flare gun. Now, while Ray says you don't want to do this, Ray is very close with Stevie. Ray helped raise Stevie, so Ray's like, you don't want to do this, and Stevie's like, actually, I do, and she hooks Danica, throws Danica over, and Ray shoots Stevie. Stevie falls over. So now everything's fine. Everything's great. Yay. It felt like it ended a little bit too quickly. And that's because it didn't end. Now, they're at Ray's bar. They're talking, but Ray is really quiet. And eventually, Ray heads to the back, and Ava notices that he has a bandage on his arm. And this calls back to an earlier attack when, remember, Ava slashed the killer with a knife, got the blood. Well, Ray has a very bad bandage on his arm. So Ava suspects Ray. Ray comes back with a hook, and we find out that Ray is part of this as well. Now, Jules ends up showing up. She realizes that Ray was also the killer because I think Ava told Jules that Stevie was the murderer, and she sees Stevie and Ray in a picture together. And so Jules realizes that Ray is also part of this. And so she comes to help. Now, when she gets there, Ava is stabbed in the back, but she's still alive. And then we see Ray. We find out that Stevie came to him for help because she wanted to get revenge for them killing Sal, and Ray used the old murders as a playbook for what they're going to do. He also did this because he says that they all forgot what happened to them and they tried to erase the past, and so he's going to bring it back. Now he is going to attack Jules. Jules is there, and she starts saying, "What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?" A callback to the original I Know What You Did Last Summer movies. It's again, like with most of the stuff, it's kind of like a little fun, but also feels really cheesy, really kind of corny. So Ray doesn't wait. He's about to attack Jules when a harpoon goes through him. We find out that Ava shot Ray with a harpoon gun. Ray keels over dead. And that is the end of the killings. We find out that Danica is still alive. Danica survived getting hooked and thrown overboard. Danica and Ava go to the hospital. They recover a little bit, and then eventually they get released. They feel like they're on some sort of pain medications, but they go to get food. And they start talking. They're a little bit silly. And then Ava eventually says, Stevie is alive. I don't know how she knew Stevie is alive. I think she assumed so because Ray and Stevie were working together. And I think she mentioned like Stevie's dead. And Ray said, are you sure about that? So feels like Stevie might still be alive. And that's the movie. There is a mid-credit scene. Make sure to stay for the mid-credit scene. We see Brandy, who is Carla from I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. She is watching the news. She sees a story about Jules, and she says they used to be roommates and that people are always trying to kill her. After this, Jules shows up at her house. They hug. They apologize for not seeing each other, and then Jules hands Carla a picture, and in it is a picture of both of them from college with a red X over Carla's face, and it says, "It isn't over." So it seems like someone's gonna come get revenge on Carla, and that's when Carla says, "Who we effing up this time?" And that's the mid-credit scene. That's the end of the movie. So I guess there will be. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Whenever that comes out, if this movie does well, but that is I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025. Like I said, I think you should watch it later. Wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. It's not great. It has fun moments. It has a fun cast, good practical effects. Just feels corny and kind of ridiculous at times. So if you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And if you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my content goes straight to you. Thank you.